Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and also to help people who have been painting for a while to paint along with us and enjoy some of the new things that we're trying. And this is the robin we're going to paint today. I'm going to hold it up really close so you can see it. I'm going to try to get the glare off. There we go. I got a card from my grandmother many years ago. And I love the card. And I don't know about you, but I take birthday cards and Christmas cards and all that, and I tear off the front and I put them aside as ideas for later on. And this was one of those that was an idea to paint later on. And it was so darn cute that I just couldn't pass it up. So what I did, and what I think is important, is I drew my study from the card so that, it looked like the card, but I drew it off. And then for those of you that haven't painted before, I took a plate and I took my tracing paper, transfer paper, and the red side is the side you put down, and I put my drawing on top of it and I just traced it. Now, one of the reasons that I think it's important to trace even a drawing instead of drawing right on the china for a beginner is that if you draw right on the china, and you can use a number of different things to draw with. You can draw with a Sharpie, which is a permanent marker. You can draw with one of these. This is just a regular black pencil. It says paper, glass, plastic, metal, and it's aquellable. Aquellable. It's by Stabilo, or Stabilo, however you pronounce that. Or you can use a china marker, which I think we were talking about not too long ago, and I don't have one here, but you could use a china marker. But any of those things that you use to draw on your china with, if you sketch and go over it many times, when you apply your paint to it, it's going to mess up the paint. It's going to, some of the color, especially if you use this kind of a pencil, is going to catch in your paint and make your paint discolored, and you're not going to really know the true color of what you're doing. With the Sharpie, it works fine and it doesn't come off right away. But if you use a Sharpie, do like I did on this one. Now see, this is the red tracing paper right there. See how light that is? If you paint over that, you'll know the true color that you're using. But when I do my black, so that you can see, because I know from a distance you really can't see, with just the red there, I do dashes. And the reason for that is so that my color will be a little truer because I won't have a solid line there. Also, sometimes I found that when I'm painting, because I have that line there from the Sharpie, the paint kind of collects against it and I don't know it until I fire it. So that's kind of important. So I'm going to start, normally I do not do the background first, but in this case, you can see with this little robin that we're going to do, it has little pin feathers. And the pin feathers that are there go off into the background, and I don't want to lose how cute they are. So that's the reason why I'm going to start with the background first. Not only that, but I want some of the background color to get in with my leaves and my flowers to really make them look nice. So I'm going to take a really big brush. This is, this is a 20. Holy cow. It's probably the equivalent of a 3/4 inch. Everybody has their own, I think, their own numbers. And I'm using, let me tell you the colors I'm using here. Okay, I'm going to be using Cool Shadow. You could use Baby Blue if you don't have Cool Shadow. Copenhagen, which you should have. So a light and a dark blue. Old Ivory. Auburn. Now, you need a light and a dark brown. The dark brown is a rich brown. If you don't have a light brown and you have some ivory, you probably could mix that into it and lighten it up a little bit. I also have warm brown gray. If you had to pick two colors that I use all the time, constantly for different things, these are the two, warm brown gray and Cool Shadow. One gives you a dark shadow, one gives you kind of a bluish shadow. You have a warm and a not so warm. And I just use them all the time. This is chartreuse, moss. If you have a color that's a little bit darker than moss, I'm trying a color called Shining that I found, but I think emerald or grass green would work. You want an Albert yellow old gold green, silver gray. You're going to need a gray of some kind for this if you, hi Edith, if you have it, that would be great. You can use burnt orange, but you can also use yellow red for the bird's feathers, white, black, and for the little beak and for the little bud, I'm using an apricot, but you could use a very light pompadour. So for those of you that have a basic palette, I tried to give you some options. Okay, so we're going to start with the background. And I'm going to use Cool Shadow. And I'm just going to, you know me, I'm just going to slap it on. And the thing with this background is you do want to leave some holes. You want to make it look cloudy. So you do want some holes in the background where the color isn't, because you really want it to look more like clouds. So see up here, I've left a little bit of the white, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm just slapping the color on right now just to get it in place. And then I'm going to smooth it. And I'm going around the bird, going around the flower, because I just want to get the color on there for the background. I'm not going to do anything with the color on the second coat either. It will be the third coat that I really get busy on the background with. But this just gives me something to start with and gives me a context for the little birdie, so he's not just out there. Hi, Edith. Now, this brush is kind of a choppy brush. So when I'm applying the color, and I'm applying it with this, and I'm using kind of a crosshatch. I'm holding it back here, and I'm cross-hatching it, but I'm not covering the whole piece. You see, I'm leaving little spots here and there without any coverage on it. And I like this brush because it kind of bends as I paint with it, which normally I would hate. But in this case, it helps me keep those areas open. So some of my other brushes, I get too smooth and I cover everything. And I don't want to do that. So I know it looks choppy right now. But I'm going to take my Copenhagen, and wherever I have these flowers and things up above, and they would cast a shadow, I'm just going to put a little bit of the Cope in there. That'll give me a little bit of a darker blue background there, and kind of compensate for the difference of the flowers and things being above it. Especially in here, oops, between the leaves. And the further back you hold your brush, the more likely you are to get that feather effect that you want. And you notice I really haven't put it in oil very much because there's oil on the plate from the other paint, and that's what I'm using right now. Now you want to make sure it goes out to the edge, or at least there's not a line where there's color. I see a line here, so I'm going to try to get rid of that. And let me see, I think I want a little blue up in here. Maybe up in there a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to take my very smooth brush, clean this one out, because if I don't clean it out when I'm using it, I'll forget. And this is my smooth brush. This is a 3/4 inch, but you see it's a flat shader, and it's real thin as far as flat shaders go. And I'm going to put that in my turpentine just to make sure there's nothing on it, and then put my oil on it. And I'm just going to lightly dip into the Cool Shadow, and I'm just going to smooth things. This is my smoothing brush. And as you smooth, you're going to have to, oops, here we go, hang on. As you smooth, you're going to have to take and probably wipe off your brush from time to time, because it's going to get a lot of paint on it. So let me move this down and you can see what I'm doing here. I'm wiping on my towel, my paper towel. I tried, Cheryl Miggs had a real nice Viva that she said was wonderful. And I've been trying it, and actually, I do kind of like it. It's not as, it seems like it doesn't have the same level of lint that some of the other paper towels do. Okay, so as you can see, I'm still just going around smoothing it lightly. I just want that background to be fairly smooth, not real choppy. Oops. I got a thing on there, hair, and I used my candle to get it off, and it works beautifully. So there you go. If you get a hair on, use your candle. And you can pull this all out to the edge, at least a little bit. Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but you get the idea. And you notice I'm going right over some of these leaves, because the leaves, if you get a little blue in it, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to take a Kleenex, and I'm just going to go around and kind of wipe off the edges where I got over on with the blue. I don't want any blue on them because ultimately I have a plan for those. And I really want them to be clean. Another thing I should mention is with this plate, it was one that I didn't purchase, I got from someone. And always check the back of your plates for holes, because on this one, it had a hole, 2 holes where I can hang it. And if I hadn't checked, I might have made this in a way that I couldn't use it on the wall, and I would have kicked myself, you know, especially if you're going to be selling any of this at a craft show or something like that. You want to make sure that you have looked on the back in case it can be hung, so people know. Okay, I'm trying to get all my, okay, I got most of it off, and I'll fuss later. Okay, so that's my background. Now I'm going to start on my little bird. Clean out my brush. I'm going to use where's my other one? I'm going to use my number 4 brush, but I want one that's fairly narrow. I thought I pulled them all out ahead of time. Okay, these are my two options. Can you see them here? And I'll put that down for a minute. And the one that I want is the one that's probably going to be the narrowest, but also have a little bit of round fluff to it, because I want this to imitate a feather. So I'm going to use this brush. I like it just a little bit better. And I'm going to start with old ivory, and I'm going to add it around, as you can see on this little bird. Let me show you here. Oh, why that keeps sticking. I'm going to add it up around the eye. I'm going to add a little bit right here on the wing. And I'm going to put a little bit down here, but I'm going to leave most of this kind of white because I want it to have a lot of, you know, kind of pop and have a little bit of bright light there. So I'm going to pull a little closer so that you can see the little bird as we're painting, so you see what I'm using as my mock-up. So I'm going to go around the eye, and let me tell you a little trick. I'm going to pull using the side of my brush and just pull it out. And I'm going to alternate between the side of my brush to get the feathers to look like little pin feathers. And I'm going to also use the flat part just to get the color in. So let me come real close so you can see. I'm just putting this around, and I'll use the side of my brush. See how that gives you a pin feather effect? And then I just want to smooth, because I want smooth feathers here for the bird. Very smooth little feathers. Okay. And that should do it right around the eye. I know it looks like he's got a horrible eye now, doesn't it? I'm also going to do a little on his wing. So right up in here. And with this, I will use the side of my brush because I want them to be nice and fluffy. If you don't have a rounded tip brush, you can use a number 4, a regular number 4 square shader. just try to use the side of the brush. And the reason for that is it gives you this soft, little pin feathery kind of look to it. And the other place that I'm going to put a little bit of ivory is right on his little breast, right here, under this wing right here. He needs a little. And I'm using a C stroke as I do it. And then I'm going to put a little bit down in here. Okay. Clean it. Now I've done the light. I'm going to do the mouth a little bit. And with the mouth, I'm going to use my apricot. And I'm just going to go in now on the mouth. Let me show you. You can see on his little mouth, the apricot is on the inside here, but the outside is yellow. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So it's just the inside of his mouth needs a little bit of apricot. So I'm going to put a little bit of apricot in his mouth. Almost made a little V and filled it in right in the middle of his mouth. And then I'm going to take, every time I think I have exactly the brush I want, I don't. I try to pull them out ahead of time, and sometimes I miscalculate what I'm going to use. Well, this will probably work. You want a small brush. What's this? This one's a 0. And I'm just going to dip it in the yellow. This would be Albert yellow. And I'm just going to, I'm going to come close so you can see. I'm going to pull it here. And I'm going to pull it here. And I'm going to put a little right there. Okay. So that's done. Next thing I'm going to do is his eye, because I don't want to get too far away from this area. And I want to work from the middle out. Okay, so I'm going to start, since I've got the light there, and I'm going to put his eye in now. It's best to put the eye in when it's looking at you. And I'm sorry, but this is kind of hard to hold up and do, but I will try. Man, I'm not having a lot of luck. You have to make a circle. There we go. And try to leave a little bit of a white area in the middle. Unfortunately, it's very difficult doing it up like this. Let me come down here and do it. Okay, well, that's not my preferred eye. This is my preferred eye. Can you see his eye on there? It's a little bit better, but it will give you an idea of how you do the eye. You try to fill in as much of the area as you can. With a little circle. And then you leave the center with a little bit of white china so that it looks clear to you. And then you're going to take and you're going to do a line above and a line below the eye, just touching the corners. And you're going to do the same thing on this side, just a little bit touching the corners. And you get your little eye. Now this eye is by no means perfect, but it'll at least give you an idea of how you do it. When you see the study has it pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to go back and we're going to keep working on our bird. Oh dear, time is flying, isn't it? I'm using Auburn on my number 4 brush. It's a rounded brush. And I'm using the side of my brush again, and I'm just going to go around the bird, starting at the top. You always paint towards yourself. That gives you a better line. And you're just using the side of the brush is going to help give you those little pin feathers. Now let me see, am I blocking you when I do this? You're using the side of your brush. And then you go back with the flat part of your brush and just smooth them out a little more. We're going to give them a little crew cut here. You're going to build up the feathers just like you would on the bird. You're going to start closer, and then you're going to move further away, and you're going to just keep adding them as you go. I'm using the side of my brush. I know it sounds odd, but that's exactly what works. And now you see how this line can get in your way. So you really have to be careful when you create a line like that. You want to work to make it work for you, not against you. Over here, I have only the red there, and you can see that that is easier to work with because it doesn't interfere with your eye. Here I have to go beyond this little, see, I go a little bit beyond. Down here I'm going to go this way. And it does, you go beyond it, it's not as obvious. Then I'm going to add in a little of the rich brown. You have to be careful. Rich brown is very dark. And I'm just going to put a little more brown over on this side too. Can you see how our little bird's coming together here? You start with small strokes and then you keep pulling them out. Use the side of your brush. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it will work for you if you give it some time. Now, I'm going to go back in with a little ivory and make this a little bit brighter up in there because that's the top of him. Okay, now I try not to go into the oil too much because if these colors blend, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going in my auburn with a side load of rich brown, and I'm just going to start, I'm doing this section now here. You want it a little darker because it's under, you know, these are the under colors here. And you want them separated a little bit. You don't want them all right on top of each other. And then you're going to come down this way. And you're going to use the brush this way with the flat part. You're going to flatten this brush out now. I'm going to use a little bit of my warm brown gray with a little side load of rich brown. And I'm going to, this is where I'm making the real feathers down here. So I'm going to pull, you see that? Pull, pull. See how you get like almost like a real feather look there? Those are his little feathers, and then you can just pull them up into there a little bit. And then we're going to do these, he has these, I'll put this down for a minute, he has these fluffy little feathers that come off here on his tail. That's what we're going to do now. And we're going to use warm brown gray, and we're going to use rich brown. I suppose, no, I still like warm brown gray, but you could use your auburn too. And I'm still going to do this. Oops, this. And you may have to flip them this way a little bit too. Auburn. And this is where, even though I know that it's looking the way I want it to, you can see how the black is kind of in there. You don't really want the black in there, but that's just the way it turns out. And now you've got to get really kind of happy with these. And we're going to do one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. Nothing fancy, just a couple of really quick ones there. See? And that's his little tail. And then I'm going to go back in, take just a tad of ivory, and pull some of these top feathers down. Can you see what I'm doing there? Pulling some of these top feathers down just to smooth it out. Alrighty, now we have a little bit of brown under here. I'll take some rich brown because we want it to be a little darker. Just pull it down a little. And then we're going to do the rest of his little red breast. I am using a color called burnt orange. You don't have to have burnt orange. You can also use yellow red. You're going to kind of side load your brush, and you're just going to use the side of your brush. So here's the full brush. You're just using the side of your brush, and you're pulling down. Long little strokes, short choppy little strokes. Those are your feathers. Then you go back with the front part of the brush and smooth them out. Now I have a little blue on him right here. I'm going to use my finger and just pat some of it off because I don't want blue there. Okay, and then I'm going to take and smooth those a little bit with the whole brush. Just a little bit. And that's my little robin. Now, I might go back without cleaning my brush off and take a little ivory and put up in there. No, I don't think I like the ivory. I think I'm going to go with the white because you remember what we said, if you don't put the light in on this time, you don't get it. And you're going to want to, I don't know if you saw what I did. Was I kind of out of the area? Here. The white is on there, and I'm just pulling into the lower color in order to get that layered effect that birds have. Okay? So that's our little bird on the first fire. We aren't going to do much more with him. We're going to start on the flowers and the leaves. Okay, now these flowers are actually, I think, kind of like probably like an apple blossom. Hi, Linda. And so I'm going to use Old Gold Green, and I'm just going to go around and put in just around the edges where there would be shadow. Oops, I need a little more oil. Here we go. Where there would be shadow, I'm putting in a little bit of the Old Gold Green, and then I'm bringing it up this side a little bit. It's a little oily. Don't know why it got so oily all of a sudden. And over here, I'm going to put in the Old Gold Green. I'm going to turn my plate. I'm going to also do it down here. Now you see there was some blue there. I'm just going to let the blue come in because you're going to see what I do with it in a minute. And then I'm going to turn the plate, and I'm going to do a little more right here. Oops, we need more gold green. We don't have enough gold green on there. There we go. And then I'm going to do a little more right here. And I'm going to go up and hit the tops of some of these with a little of it, because I want to make them a little bit cupped. Oh, I need more oil. There we go. Oop, that's a little heavy-handed. There we go. And I'm using kind of a C stroke as I do this, just to work it in to the flower a little more. Okay, and then I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to go up along the top and just make sure that I separate it from the background. So I'm just, okay. Now I'm going to let that set for just a minute. Pull this one down just a tad. Can you see what I've done so far? It's a little dark, and you can make it a little lighter by just, you know, patting it out with your finger, or maybe using a brush and smoothing it out if you don't want it that dark. But we're going to put the center in. And for the center, I'm going to use Old Gold Green again. And I'm using my, what is this? This is a 0. And I'm just going to put these dark green dots in. I'm going to show you real carefully where the petals meet. And I'm using Old Gold Green again. Just putting little dots in. Clean my brush. I'm going to go back now and I'm going to get my Albert. And I'm going to do the same thing with him. I'm just putting dots. This is going to be really hard to see, so let me come as close as I can. I'm just putting dots. And then I'm going to take a little of the Old Gold Green and go in and add that in there too, just to give the dots some definition. Oops, got to get a little more on my brush here. It doesn't look like much now, but believe me, it will. You can build that up over several layers, over several firings, and get just the color you want. Okay. And then I'm going to take a little of the same color and just pull out to separate these guys a little bit. Okay. I'm going to use my eraser with this end, not this end. This is the chisel, and just go in there and add a few dots. Or if you prefer, you could take white and go in there and add a few dots with the white, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, now we're going to work on the leaf underneath. I'm going to take chartreuse and moss, and you put the moss, which is the darker of the two colors, and you just put it up underneath there. You want the darker color facing the flower because the flower is casting a shadow. The same thing here. And then you're going to come down. Now the way I do it, I come down the edges of the leaf like this. And then I smooth it with some short, light strokes. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. And if you want to, you can take some moss, put it on your brush, nice sandy, and just touch there. Did you see? I got a little bit of a vein there, vein there, vein there, and maybe a vein there, like that. And if they're too long for you, like this one's a little long for me, just brush it and it'll disappear. I'm also going to put in a leaf. There's a leaf over here. It's hard to see where these leaves are. I admit that because of the way this is drawn. So I'm going to put one here. And come down, just do the edge. And the other leaf is right here. Oh, need more moss. And just smooth it a little bit. Actually, I should smooth it up this way because I want the color to go back that way. I want the darker color to go back that way. And these you can either put in your vein now or you can wait and put it in later. We have another flower. Okay, my old gold green. We have another flower here. Now let me show you what that flower looks like. It's kind of peeking out. See how it's doing? It's kind of going like this with the center right in the middle there. And then we have a bud up here. And so I'm going to, oh, where are we with the blue here? What did I do with my big brush? Well, I'll just grab another brush. I just realized this needs to be blue. That's background. So I will put a little background in there. Okay. And this is blue down in here too. That'll help you understand it a little better. This is blue down in here too. Okay. All right. And now I'm going to do this flower. And this flower is sort of upon itself. So I'm going to, like that. I'm sorry, got my brush in the way there. And I'm going to do the upper part of this one. You need to define them a little bit because you do have the blue in the background, but if you don't put some color on them, it's going to be hard for you to know where one flower starts and another flower begins. This one I'm going to put it right at the base, and this one I'm going to put it right at the base too. And then in the center, so see there's my flower kind of folding on itself. I don't know if you can tell. And if you want to separate it a little bit, you can by just taking your eraser, doing a couple little things with the eraser just to give it some separation. And then you're going to take your old gold and you're going to go back in the middle. Oops, not dark enough. Got to get it darker. Here we go. And you're going to go back in the middle here with the old gold. And this is only the first fire, so you're going to put a little bit of the old gold around it. We're going to take and put a little bit of the Albert in the middle. And the final flower you have is, you have two more. This one down here, better make sure I've got my brush clean. You're going to do with an apricot. Because these buds, before they open, actually have quite a bit of peach on them. So I'm going to do a little peach there, a little peach there. You can take your liner and do the two little leaves that are there. There's 2 little leaves up here. There's one there. I'm just using moss green right now and doing a solid because I missed. It's up here. I thought it was down there. It's right there. I'm just going to put moss green on them for now, and I can shade them the next time. Okay. And the final flower is up here. Now I'm just using the green in the shading areas on here so that I know where the shading is on this flower. So that's the upper flower. I just took and did C-strokes to define the leaves. It's further in the background. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, this one I kind of took a little yellow and a little bit of the burnt orange and just sort of put a little ticky up in that corner because it doesn't have to be defined. This is the focal point, and we will get into defining that more in the next couple of fires. If you want the leaf to fold over, or the petal to fold over, this is the time to do it. Like if you want this one to fold over, this would be the time to do it. And you could do that by just doing something like that and putting a little more. See how I did that? I just took and I wiped out this section here, and then I put a little more depth in there. And then I'm going to take a liner with a little bit of auburn on it so I don't lose where my little stems are. And I'm just doing a single stem right now so I don't lose it. Next time I will do more of a defined stem because I'll have the time, but right now I feel like this is fine. I'm going to take a little moss green and just put a few little guys up here. Nothing fancy. Okay. So that's how he turned out on the first fire. This is the second fire. Let me bring you up so you can see what's going on. Next time we will do the second fire. So hopefully by next time, I'll show you how to get to this point. And with this, I only did the bird and the flowers. That's all I'm doing. Yeah, try Pompadour in white. See what you get. You might be okay with that. It might work for what you want. And then the final fire, I think I'm just going to add some details. I have something special planned for the edge of it, and I'm going to darken the background a little bit. So I think that'll be something that might work. So anyway, that's it for this week. Keep painting, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.